Fuck, man. No cover, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. Come back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. No cover, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. Come back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. Yeah, you nigga know I'm about to bring the heat, right? Shit, I used to leave the street light. Hey, now I still keep the heat tight. Now nigga on gold like a green light. They say 144, nigga, you can get it. Ain't gotta tell me twice. Tryna stack a couple grand, get on some land, and put us on the feet in the field with the Warriors. And you know a nigga glorious, but we still keep it G though. Gotta keep it G. Keep them tools Home Depot. Might hit him with the Rico. Hey, hit the nigga with the Rico. Hey, said they fucked up the rap game. What you looking at me for? So I know they can't stand me. That's why I keep a Glock handy. Might sip a little brandy while I'm chilling with the family. Tell them a real nigga landed. Dressed in all black like a bandit. Bitch, I ain't come to play. Bitch, I came to do damage. No cover, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. Come back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. No cover, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. Come back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. Back, now we ballin'. Ain't Babylon falling. You know the path a nigga walk. Then I walk. Nigga raised up, now I'm all in. And all I ever wanted was the win in the big body Benz. Now I'm gone in the wind, trying to stack a couple in. Now let's get it in, yeah, let's get it in. About to make the shit tremble. 144, the rebel. Yeah. About to turn it up a level. Heat the bitch up like lava. And it probably bring a whole mob. And all that we feel is our fire. And I'm headed for the top dollar. And ain't none gonna stop me. None gonna stop. No Calvador nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. Come back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know. No coward, no nigga came back down. I thought I'd let you know that I was gone, but I never left. Come back now. I thought I'd let you know this brotherhood is a whip, and I never let it go. Never let it free. Shit, I kill for my niggas. I thought I'd let you know.
Test. Slovakia. Just make sure. It's gonna check the live, make sure the audio is coming through to Rob. Bear with me just a second. Test. Kind of looks like it's all good. All right. Most High in Christ. Salaki. Just turn this a little bit. Okay. Here we go. Most High in Christ. All right, Shalom. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah Barakatha to all the brothers. Yahweh Shamar Alatha by Shem Yahweh Shah to all the sisters. It's the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge out here in Durham, North Carolina. Precinct Officer 500,001 holding it down. Right. It's the Friday Lashawan Qadash class, the Hebrew class. Okay. You know what I mean? So, of course, we're going to go into a new, going to refresh some of the things we've been talking about, real heavy topics, Tawab stuff. You know what I'm saying? But we always building on things we've been going over. You know what I mean? As promised last week, I mentioned doing a few different words, kind of utilizing the ing mechanism in Hebrew, the wa. So we're going to do that today. A few other things. All right. Of course, also kind of get a little bit more in depth with the alphabet, to kind of see the thought process behind some of the letters and why they, why the pictographs are as they are, why they look how they look. Okay. Slaki. All right. We'll read just a couple of scriptures real fast before we get into those things. Okay. If you have any questions, you can just type them into the chat. Okay. Any questions on the Hebrew or what have you, just type it into the chat. I'll get to it. If I can answer it, then, that's what I'll do. You know what I mean? If not, what I'm saying, we'll just go ahead and write it down until another priest can get the clarification for you. Any questions in the room? No sweat. Right? So first thing I want to do is read something that we read almost every week. You know what I mean? But I think it's very prevalent and important to read and understand. We're going to go to the book of Ecclesiasticus. Right? We're specifically going to go to the prologue. Right? There's actually, believe it or not, in the book of Ecclesiasticus, there's a prologue before the prologue. So there's a prologue, and then there's another prologue. Because remember, this was translated, essentially twice. It was translated originally from Hebrew into Greek, then translated from Greek into English, right? And so we're going to read this little section of this prologue, learn something about the Hebrew. It says, let me scroll down. Here we go. I'll read it from here. Shalakia. The prophet demonstration without. Says, wherefore let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret. So, what I'm saying, the brother is talking about the process of translating it and changing it into another language, transferring it. And this is what he says. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue, right, have not the same force in them. And this goes back, we'll just kind of use that word, right? That word. Right? So this is written again in that old Quaker English, right? And he says, for the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue, right? Which helps us. Tongue means what in this context? Right. In this context, tongue means language. Because the first language he mentioned was what? Hebrew. And we're going to get an understanding of that as well, that word, Hebrew, right? But tongue means language, okay? And all languages come from Hebrew. But a lot of these terms, these metaphors and words representative of the words, you understand, absolutely come from Hebrew. And we see the same thing, the same function in Hebrew. Now, the word tongue is used here. This is an English word for your tongue. What is the Hebrew word for this? Close, but not quite. Remember, we discussed it before. Khan. Go ahead. What is it? Right. Lashawan. Right? This is the Hebrew equivalent of the word tongue, right? Literally your tongue, okay? But then we found out that if we take the wa, right? Right, and the wa is what? No, well, it's n as a preposition. So when you put it in the front of a word by itself, it means n. But when it's injected into a word, it's used to form what in English is called the ing form. So it's equivalent to the. I'll put this little dash so you know it's at the end. Ing in English, right? So what does it become? What is it doing? It's turning this thing into an action. It's describing what you do with this the same way that tongue, except in English, it just keeps its regular noun form, right? It keeps its regular noun form, the word, but you're using it now as a different type of noun, right? It's a metaphor, so to speak. But in our language, we're actually going to transfer it to describe what you do with this thing to make it this. So then this becomes what? Exactly. This becomes Lashawan, right? Lashawan, this thing ing. It's the action with this thing, right? And the action you do with your tongue, right? As the same reason why in English they say you speak another tongue. That's a strange tongue you speak, because it's just using it's using the tool that you use to do it, to describe it. So now we're turning this into the thing you do with it, which is what? That's a great word. Speaking is a great way to put it, which is the same thing as a language, right? And notice when we say Lashawan Qadash, when we say that, right? It's always translated as holy. And we always say what? Tongue. The reason why we do that, even though technically Lashawan isn't the physical word for literal tongue by itself. It's a form of it, but it's not by itself the word for tongue. But we say holy tongue because it would still be the equivalent of this. You see, it's the interesting thing. It still comes back around, because tongue in English it's the same word for the body part and what you do with it. Oh, you speak in a strange tongue. You know, you go to the dentist. Could you lift up your tongue, please? It's the same word, right? But in Hebrew, We've separated this into two words, but they still come back around and mean similar things. But also, we don't say, why don't we say holy language? It's not, I don't want to, it's not a trick question, so to speak. The reason why we don't say holy language, it would not be incorrect to say holy language, but we don't say holy language because this word would not be used so much in the time when the Bible was written. You know, when you read the Bible, no, I don't think it says, does it say linguacy? It even says language. That word, I'm not saying it didn't exist, but more often than not, the word tongue was used. So we're just trying to stay consistent with what you're going to see in the King James 1611. Yeah, the word language is there, but it's only 7 times in the whole Bible. It's only used 7 times in the whole Bible, right? And then you see right here, H3956, Lashawan, language. Okay. So it said, we're reading in the prologue to the book of Ecclesiasticus, right? For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. All right. Now, Slakia, whilst on that particular subject, it mentioned, right, that something translated out of Hebrew into another language doesn't have the same force. You understand? And this is true. We always talk about the phrase lost in translation. Something is lost when you take the original and you have to transfer it to something because it's not the original anymore. Okay? And the thing about Hebrew is that it absolutely is the original. It is the original language, right? I'm working on getting a copy of a book called Biblical Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? At my Adawan up in New York. You know what I'm saying? My Adawan Hazahab has a copy up there in the school. Book that we want to get our hands on. It's a scholarly book from the Yale, if I'm not mistaken. It's published by Yale, right? And in that book, it tells you, you know what I mean? This is not our words. It tells you in that book that biblical Hebrew is not the Hebrew they speak now. And it also tells you in that book that original Hebrew didn't have any vowels, right? So it is, they know the truth. They do, but they've adopted their own style of doing these things, which is understandable. The Lord didn't want us to all be together anyway. He wanted us all to be separated. So they do what they do, how they do it. Right? But one quick thing. Hebrew. Should I save it? Just bear with me just a second. Now we'll go there, right? So Hebrew itself, right? I'll write it right here. Hope everybody can see. I'm gonna try to write it large enough for everybody to see. Hebrew. This word, Hebrew, is, if you were looking the Bible, this comes from this word in the Bible. This name in the Bible. Eber. Okay? Eber. Now, Hebrew is the name of the language associated with this brother's name, it came from this name. Now, they call us what? What do they sometimes call us in the, in the media or what have you? You know what I mean? They see the Isupk and they say, there goes those what? Those black what? Them black Hebrew Israelites. The black Hebrew Israelites is what they call us, which is a redundancy. Why is that a redundancy? To say black Hebrew Israelites. Got Officer Qadash, what's going on, bro? Shalom, how about Shemi al Brakatah? Why is it a redundancy to say black Israelites, black Hebrew Israelites? Basically, it's a redundancy because it's like saying, give me a characteristics of something that's inherent in the thing. Saying, oh, that's like saying a white Caucasian. You know, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's a redundancy. All Caucasians are white people. So to say a white Caucasian doesn't make any sense. Okay? You know, it's hard to think of, you know what I'm saying, another one, but because they're so weird, but it's a redundancy because what the Israelites are, what? They're black. The Israelites are black. You know what I'm saying? And black, don't get mixed up on the word black. You understand? That's the other problem with it, is that usually when people use the word black, they're trying to make a reference to what, you know what I'm saying? Like basically, they're trying to say so-called African Americans. And all Israelites are not so-called African Americans. So that's wrong right there. You understand? But the real Jews are black. So it makes no sense to say black Hebrew Israelites. Now, why does it not make sense to say Hebrew Israelites? When I say not make sense, don't think right and wrong. It's not wrong. You know, we are, I mean, who asked that question? Paul asked that question, right? In the book of Corinthians, when he wrote to the brothers in Corinth, he said, are they Hebrews? So am I. So yes, we are Hebrews. But what's the problem with that? What's the problem with saying I'm a Hebrew? Is that all Paul asked? Did he just say, are they Hebrews? So am I. And now let's move on to the next thing. Or did he ask more questions? Let's go to it. Let's read it real fast. We're done with the Apocrypha, but you want to keep that to remember that, you know what I mean, the importance of knowing, you know what I'm saying, of the importance of knowing this translation process, right? From Hebrew to another language, you understand? It doesn't have the same power. You got to go to the source. And we're breaking down Hebrew, the word right now. But Boz, what's going on, bro? How about you, man? Brakatah. Hey, Salaki, I was supposed to see those pictures last night, bro. My bad. Text me, you know what I'm saying? Text me and remind me to send you those. You know what I mean? But Officer Baaz said, unnecessary. I mean, it is unnecessary, but give me a little more like, why would you say Hebrew? Why would that not really? It is unnecessary, but why? Why is it unnecessary? Why is it unnecessary to say Hebrew Israelite? You know what I'm saying? For time's sake, it's unnecessary because being a Hebrew doesn't mean anything. In the grand scheme, it doesn't mean anything. Hebrew is not a people. What is Hebrew? No. Hebrew, there is no Hebrew people. It's a language, right? Come. It's a language. And guess what? There's a lot of Hebrews. Guess what? Arabs are Hebrews. The so-called Ishmaelites are Hebrews. Anybody who is a descendant of Eber could be a Hebrew. You understand? The Chinese and the Japanese are Hebrews from Moab and Ammon. Lot, the father of the Japanese and the Chinese, right, who of course had incestuous sex with his daughters, right? He was Abraham's nephew. They were descended from Eber, Hebrews. That's why we say Abraham was not a what? Abraham was not an Israelite because there was no such thing as an Israelite yet, right? And it wasn't at that, by the time Abraham, the Lord chose Abraham to be the man through which his chosen people would come. But before, he hadn't chosen a people yet. The first nation of people that the Most High chose was who? The first and only nation he chose, the Israelites. Before that, he chose a line of men. From Adam, and he kept picking men down. Picked Abraham, and then he picked one of Abraham's sons, not both of them. Picked one of Abraham's sons, right? Then he picked what? One of Isaac's sons, and then he picked all of Jacob's sons. You understand? And that's it. That's the nation right there. That's the nation. Okay? So to say Hebrew is like Officer Baai said, it's unnecessary because it's not same. Edomites are Hebrews. You gonna tell me that because that means something? That we all no, it doesn't mean anything. Right, now let's get some more here with Hebrew. Get an understanding here, right? So this, of course, is not the actual ancient Hebrew word, right? It wouldn't be Eber because we know there's no what in ancient Hebrew. There's no E. There's no vowels. There's only two vowel sounds in ancient Hebrew, which of course are what? The only two vowel sounds are what you would call the short A sound or the Ah sound. You can see it here with these letters. I'm only gonna write an ancient because we're talking about ancient Hebrew right now. The Ah and the I. Ah, I. Those are the only two vowel sounds that exist in ancient Hebrew. Period, point blank, right? So the short A sound, sometimes you see it written like this. Oh, well, actually, they won't write a capital. Salakia. They would write it something like this. Ah, right? And the I forgot how they wrote it. But there's no E sound, right? Instead, in ancient Hebrew, it is what? Ibar. There goes them two vowel sounds we have. Vowel sound. Notice I didn't, not vowels. There's no vowels in ancient Hebrew, but those two sounds. Ibar. Okay? Ibar. Okay? What does Ibar mean? What does Ibar mean? See if anybody online knows. All right. Yo, brothers, just a second. No sweat. Ibar means past. Right? What do we say at the beginning of the class? This is the oldest language. Right? It's the oldest language. It's from the past. This is the form of this is the language that Abraham spoke. This is the language that Noah spoke. Let's go back before Abraham. Right? Because we sometimes forget that. Right? Sometimes forget a little bit of the chronology. Right? We can go back before Abraham. There was who? Noah. Noah, of course, again, Noah wasn't even a Hebrew. He wasn't an Israelite. or a Hebrew. He couldn't be. Because what? The word Israel comes from Jacob's name being changed to Israel or Yasha'Allah, Prince of the Power. Hebrew comes from Eber. Eber was like Noah's grandson, I believe. I believe Eber was Noah's Ibar. Right? Well, I'm saying Eber because this is what you're going to see in the KJV. Right? It's the transliteration of this. Right? This is the transliteration of this. Okay? And then it became this to describe the language. Right? To show you how, bear with me just a second. And we're going to write it out so to see where this comes from. So again, so we're going to write it in ancient only because we're dealing with kind of the old form right now. I, the Ba, and the Ra. Of course, the I is this, the Ba, B-A is this, and the Ra is this. I bar. How it becomes Hebrew, well, first, how it becomes Eber is because, as we know, this later becomes this. After the Masoretes and so on and so forth, after the Assyrian captivity, this becomes this. Right? Ibar. Notice we still pronounce it the same. But after the Assyrian captivity, this is now written like this. Then sometime, this is after Christ, this is like, 700 AD or something like that. Masoretes come and they start putting all kinds of funky dots and lines and all kinds of nonsense all around everything, which is changing, which is to do what? To put in certain vowel sounds, right? So now they see this, right? Let's see. No, it's not. Where's the I? I's over here. But this I, you got to remember, as languages go on, transform, get watered down, things change. For example, in Spanish, if I'm not mistaken, there is no I sound. Well, there is, you can form it, but not, you can't, there's no letter like that. They don't pronounce their I like that. I think the Spanish alphabet is A, B, C, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, A. It's like, it's different. But this I is what eventually became the E here, E. Okay? They doubled it up, Eber, and how it becomes Hebrew, right, is because the I here, or what became the E becomes he. This becomes he. Then they take this bar part and turn it into just BR, right? And then the list in part, essentially how they did it, I'm not sure, but really it's because when this gets transferred into a language in the scriptures, Ibar is the person. The language is Ibaria. Ibaria. Okay? And that's how they turned it into something different. That's where we get the word Hebrew from. But the origin of the word Hebrew means past or from the past. Okay? Follow me? All right. Bear with me. All right. And that's one word, showing you the origin, the ancient Hebrew origins. And let's examine this further. And let's see. Now, this is the oldest language. When I get that book, I'm going to show you, right? This is PDF files you can find, but I want to get the actual book. You feel me? But you can see how other languages take from this. For example, right? Blackety blacks, right? Blackety blacks and, the unconscious community, they love to say what? Kemet this, Kemet that, Kemet this, Kemet. Let me blow your mind a little bit. Kemet, do right here. That word only exists because of Hebrew. The word Kemet comes from Hebrew. So their whole belief, whatever, would not exist if not for Hebrew. About to prove that Hebrew came first. This is what they say. Kemet. Right? Kemet. All right. So let's get this. Let me see if I got it right here. I'm gonna break this down. Don't tell me I don't got it on me. Well, no sweat. For time's sake, I won't get it. If you look in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, or even if you got the large pictorial Bible Dictionary, and you look up a certain word, you'll find out that a certain person is what? He is the progenitor of the so-called, they call them dark races in the Zondervan. And then it goes to list who? It says the Egyptians. It says the Ethiopians. It says the Libyans. So it says the Canaanites, right? So on and so forth. All of these African nations. Who is the man who is the progenitor of the so-called Africans? Ham, right? That's why in this school, when we see you all these actors and actresses these days, I'm telling you, it kills me. You know what I'm saying? I got my rep in here, and I'm she knows. She'll tell you just how upset I get. I watch a movie, and I'm trying to enjoy the film and have a nice time, and then here comes some ham bone trying to act like a, for lack of a better word, so-called African American, and it's disgusting. They don't act like us. They don't move like us. They damn sure don't look like us. You understand? Tell me I'm wrong. As you get into school more, you start to see like something ain't right. I was out with my guys the other day. You know what I'm saying? I knew this dude. I already knew he was African, but like I saw him like dancing, and I immediately was like, yeah, that's like, yeah, that confirmed it. That confirmed it. His lack of coordination, and it was like, oh boy, like this is something different, right? But yes, Ham is the progenitor of the so-called African nations. But the compact, the Zondervan, will tell you he is not the progenitor of who? The Negroes. That's not a book we wrote. My name ain't Zondervan. You know what I'm saying? That's some so-called Caucasian man wrote this book, or compiled this, and it's there in plain letters, not the Negroes. So it means the Negroes are not related to the Ethiopians and the Libyans and so on and so forth, right? But let's go further and let's show what this means. It might, again, I don't want to upset anybody, but I have to do it. So if you look up ham, not the thing you just ate over the holiday weekend, right? To look up ham, bear with me. Here we go. H2526. Come. That's the word. And it says, you can look at it right here. See that? Come. It says Ham, a son of Noah, also as a patronymic, his descendants or their country. Ham. So Ham is in fact this word. The actual word, Hebrew word. Oh my, bro. Ham, right? Now, what does that word mean? It actually says it in that definition. You might know what the word ham actually means. This is funny. Think about it. If you dark skinned and you so-called African American, at some point in life, some horrible child might have called you what? African, you know what they say. African booty scratcher, you ever heard that? Right? Because their association with being dark skinned, right? Which of course we know every nation on the planet has people of all shades, just about, with the exception of who? The devil. He's just that because he has a mark on him. But almost all nations on earth have ranges from very dark to light. Most High in Christ, but I said hot. Most High in Christ, the water, brother. Hum means hot. And ooh-wee, is it ever so obvious? They look hot. They look absolutely burnt to a crisp. And then, you know what I'm saying, as Azab say, bro, they smell like it's hot, because it is. Over there it's hot. And, you know, the smell goes together with that, right? That's what it means, okay? That's what it means. Now, from this word, hum, see, ham is Americanized, is, you know, transliterated and transferred. Hum, from there, you get people spelling it because the I don't want to say that. Suffice to say, hum then becomes something like that, right? And what happened is this. Is that now you got people, blackety blacks ended up taking this and saying Kimite, right? Or basically a person the same way you might say Edomite, right? Japhite, you know what I mean? Just to describe the people of this, right? So they're saying, so this him, or now it's Kimite. Overtime. Kimite, right? The word Kimit is because of this word him, which is Hebrew. They're liars. They don't know what they're talking about. Their whole language is nonsense, and it wouldn't exist. They wouldn't even be able to call themselves Kemet if not for the fact that Hebrew existed. That's even how, if I'm not mistaken, that's even how some of their like hieroglyphics, they have to like cross-reference them with Hebrew. Because on planet Earth, Hebrew is the oldest language. It's the oldest spoken language. Right now, what we see now, what the Yiddish is watered down. It's not Hebrew, right? But it is the language most spoken on earth, right? That is related to the oldest language. You understand what I'm saying? There are other languages that are not as old as Hebrew that are literally existed and are not spoken anymore. There are literally extinct languages. You understand? There are extinct languages on earth. are extinct dialects on Earth. You understand? In China, they speak like 100 different dialects. There's like 100 different ones. Mandarin and Cantonese are not even a person who speaks fluent Cantonese cannot understand a person who speaks fluent Mandarin. You understand? But this language has existed a lot longer than all of those. All right. Most High in Christ. Now, going back to the situation with Lashawan, right? I think that's what we're going to go to next. Right. And of course, we even know in the same vein, right? What other word could we say? We spoke about this the other day. The word Arab, right? We use that today in English. It's an English word we use. Arab nations. We say the word Arab all the time. Where does the word Arab come from? Arab. And what does that word mean? Word Arab, time's sake, comes from the Hebrew word, Irab. Right? Irab. Let's see. The word Irab means, this is Strong's H 6151. It means to mix or mingle. Irab means mix or mingle. Why does it mean that? Why does it mean to mix or mingle? Because the Arabs come from who? Who is the father of the Arabs? Correct. But Ishmael's father was, and Ishmael was born of who? Abraham. Ishmael's father was Abraham, right? Who is Ishmael's mother? Absolutely not. That's right. Ishmael's mother was Hagar. Hagar, who was a ham bone, right? She was a ham sandwich. That's what Hagar was. So Abraham did what when he got with this Hamite? Because he wasn't a Hamite. Abraham was from the line of Shem, Khan, Tawada, Officer Baaz and Officer Qadam, right? Abraham and Hagar. He's from the line of Shem. He's more specifically, but forget being a Shemite, he is through the chosen line from Adam that the Most High chose. And he mixed. He didn't deal with his family the way, or not a close relative, but his family, his, you know what I'm saying, his I don't want to say nation, you know what I mean, but a somebody within his, you know, I'll say within his family, his blood. He didn't deal with somebody in his tribe, so to speak. No, he went out and dealt with the ham bone, and that's why mix, right? The Arabs are a mix, and it's still like that today. Some of them Arabs is Ishmael, some of them is Edom. They just a whole mix of nasty, not Israelites, not, you know what I mean, not chosen people, right? But the reason why it's called they're a mix is because of Abraham mixing with Hagar. And guess what? Now Hagar is the name from which you get the chief tribe of the Arabs, which we know in the prayer we say it who? The Hagarenes. The Hagarenes. Right? We say it in Psalms 83. King David was asking for help from the Most High. And he's listing everybody that is confederate against us, right? Cabal and Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, right? He names a bunch of Africans, but then he also names, again, he names Moab and Ammon, Amalek, which is a tribe, which is the chief tribe of Edomites, right? He's naming all of these other nations. I don't think he names any. I don't think there even are any Japhetic tribes. The Japhetic people are just Japhet people. They're just a bunch of Hawaiians and Polynesians and what have you that are not really in the mix with anything. They're like the Canada of the earth. But you know how like Canada is like a place is prominent, but like they're never really in the mix with stuff. So the Japhetic people are like that. You know what I'm saying? When it's all said and done and Christ comes back, the Japhetic people, you know, will have a much better seat. They will have the highest seat of heathens. They won't have any rulership on earth, but they will have a higher seat than any other heathen you can think of. We're not going to treat them as equals, but they'll be like regular people, Japhetic people. Again, like Polynesians, Hawaiians, you know, Samoans, people like that. They've never really done anything to us. You know what I'm saying? There's no history of them really participating in anything against us. So, you know, they'll live, you know, fine lives. They're just think of them like who lives fine lives on earth now. I mean, the devil is definitely in charge, and everybody's in every other nation is in mourning, or not in mourning, but you know, when the righteous bear rulership, people rejoice. When the wicked bear rule, people mourn. So yeah, everybody's in mourning right now. But in that day, you know, everyone will do better, you know, than this wicked, disgusting world we live in. But the Japhetic people will definitely they'll be like your house Negroes. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna be whipping their backs like that because we don't have no reason to. We're not like the devil. We're not gonna, you know what I'm saying, issue punishment to someone who's not deserving of that. We're not gonna whip their backs. They'll work for us. It'll be our kingdom, but you know what I'm saying? Like I said, they'll live very comfortably and just fine. And they say we racist. This is crazy. You know what I'm saying? We hate, you know, we preach hate. No. We just preach the truth. Teach the truth. Right? But that's where the Hagarenes comes from Hagar. These are Arabs. All right. All right. What else we got? Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about that. Okay, and why not? You know, why not just mention that real fast? We're gonna get back to this whole Lashawan thing in just a second. And let me just show this real fast. What is this called? Now, it's not a trick question, but it kind of is a trick question. I'm gonna write it two ways. Hope everybody online can see that. What is this called? Y'all see that on the board? This up here. And right here. What is this called? He said they'll get, Officer Bob said they'll get Hawaii back. Right, Con. They'll get Hawaii back. So what are these four letters called? First of all, what does it say? Right, it says Yahweh. You know what I mean? We read it. Yahweh. Let me write the connectors. Well, Yahweh. But what is it called? what is it called in scholarly journals and textbooks? What is this collection of letters referred to as? Come, Most High in Christ, Officer by eyes. Get that brother a hand, man. Right, it's called the Tetragrammaton. Make sure I spell it right. Yeah, Tetragrammaton. Tetragrammaton. Right? The Tetragrammaton Tetragrammaton, right? This collection of letters. Let's read the definition of it. Let's see what they say, how they describe it. The Tetragrammaton, right, or tetragram, is the four-letter Hebrew word Yahweh, transliterated as. It is transliterated as. I'm gonna erase. Which one should I erase? Shalakia. I'm gonna erase. Yeah, I'm gonna erase the Hebrew for real quick. Hope everybody got it. It is transliterated as what? Y H W H. Right? Which is correct. However, as we said before the beginning of class, with Hebrew kind of taking a bunch of different twists and turns and changing to a bunch of different things and them trying to put in different vowels and so on and so forth. It is from this, so would you be familiar with this word when you get in a battle? They like to throw out words like tetragrammaton and so on and so forth. Okay. It is from this. Now, this is what they tell you. This is what they'll tell you. This is the funny part. So whenever somebody even mentions, if they even try to pull Jehovah, then it's just a dub for that. That's crazy, right? But from this, because remember, they kept, so these are the consonants it represents. Remember, every letter in Hebrew is a what? A consonant. And these are the consonants. But they kept changing the language and doing different things, which are changing the consonantal sounds and trying to add vowel sounds and so on and so forth. So what do you end up with? You end up with this, right? But then you have somebody who is using what's called matrix lectionis to put a bunch of different vowels, and then you'll see something like that, right? I've seen worse. Who's ever seen this one? This doesn't even have, yeah. This one doesn't even have the Y, but they were able to transfer this and make this U. So they're saying, oh, it was a U sound. Ooh. Which is crazy and excuse me, not real. And it gets worse. They'll actually change. You'll get ones. This became a what? What did this letter become? The Ya became what? Became a J. Right? And the Ha hasn't changed, but that'll still be that. And then they'll say, oh, there was no W sound. Because now in the Yiddish, they don't say Wa, they say what? Vav. Mazel tov. Right? And what do we get from this? Using the same with the E's and all. None of these are correct. I'm gonna use the red marker because I'm upset. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. And this is nonsense. It's very simple. There's only one vowel sound, right? So if we do same thing, this is what they know. They know this is correct. And if we read we read the books, as the scholars say, ancient Hebrew with no extra vowels, no other vowel sounds, just one unambiguous sound, and we just why make it more complicated? That's what it is. Yahweh, that's the Lord's name, right? And furthermore, because sometimes you'll get especially unintelligent, fake Israelite who will tell you that the Lord's name is what? Ahaya, Ashar, Ahaya, or some nonsense. That ain't in the Bible. That's not what. Literally, every time you see this, whenever you see this, written just like this, whenever you see that, guess what it really says? It really says Yahweh. Every time. We can do it right now. Let's look one up. Genesis 2 and 4. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth, which they were created in the day that the Lord God made the heaven and earth. Let's read it in Hebrew. Right? Allah Thawa Slakia. Thawaladawath Hashemayim, which is heavens. The heavens Hashemayim, Baha Aratiza, and the earth. Bahabarayim, right? Bayawam in the day, Yashawath, Yahweh, Alahayim, Aratiza, Washamayim. The Yahweh, the Most High, Alahayim, power, the Most High power, Yahweh the power, right? Aratiza, Washamayim, the earth and heavens. But in English it says the Lord. It don't say it. You can look it up. It says Yah, the Ha, the Wa, and the Ha. It does not say Ahaya. You gotta be a sick, I don't know what, just to try to come like Like, I mean, damn, you fake Israelites, y'all want to be the man so bad. Like, oh, I'm gonna come up with a new name for the most. I discovered that. That's what you doing, bro, and you know that's what you doing, and it's sick. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what I mean? Want to be the one to come up with something like you need help, brothers and sisters, right? So that's what that is all about. All right, that's what that is all about. Let's see. We should have about what 40 minutes left. Yeah, about 45. A bit of time. So, like, you bear with me. Mm. All right. So let's move on to the next thing. So I want to let's talk about this wa thing a little bit. Let's talk about that just a bit. Okay. I'm gonna erase all of this. Everybody got this? Kimmit, Ham. Okay, I'll get a question. No sweat. All right. So in accordance with this, let's look at some other words that work in a similar fashion. Let me check my other notes. Mhm. Just a second. I want to get a scripture to show it first. Mm-mm. May not be able to, but just bear with me. Mm-hmm. Mm. That's the verb. Oh, yeah, a noun. Wait, no sweat. We'll just do it so you can just see how it works. So, how do you say bless in Hebrew? Okay. Barak. How then would we say blessing? But be careful, right? Because we're not talking about a noun here. And that's why I don't want to get into a long, drawn out grammar lesson. But in English, we've talked about this before, but I know it can be difficult to grasp. So, but I'm going to try to just explain it real fast so we get to understand how this works. So, I'm trying to think of it. Bear with me. Okay. Are these the same word? Right? But they're not the same word. They are the same word on the board. I'm not trying to trick you. But I'm going to use these in two different ways where they will function in two different ways in an English sentence. In this sentence, hunting is a what? A verb, right? Specifically, in this sentence, it is what is called the, should I say it right? Present participle. Some languages have extensive participle systems, participial systems, but English has only two participial forms, most commonly termed past participle, which is regularly formed with an ed suffix, looked, ended, tutored, but has numerous irregular forms, broken, made, understood, and present participle, which is formed with an ing suffix, breaking, making, understanding. Some grammars further distinguish passive participles. You don't gotta worry about that. This is called the present participle. Okay. It is a verb form to describe, again, a current action. You understand what I'm saying? As in, we were in this process. We were in the process of this, right? Okay. So it's not, it's this sentence is describing a past event, but as a present happening. We were hunting. We were doing this. In that moment, it was current, right? As opposed to just the past tense. In a certain, say, read. I read that book. That means I what? It means I read it, but it's to describe that an action that is completed. I read that book. I'm not talking about it like I'm in that moment I was currently doing it. I'm just letting you know at one point that book was read by me. That's past tense. I read that book. That's what I'm saying. That's past tense. But if I say I was reading a book, that's what? Participle. It's not present tense. It's present participle because I'm still describing a past action, but I'm describing the moment in a continuous fashion. Like I'm as the fact that I was doing it. Participle, P-R-T-I-C-I-P-L-E. P-A-R-T-I-C-I-P-L-E. Participle. Mm-hmm. So it's again describing you doing something at the time in the middle. You're in the middle of the action, as opposed to it being a completed action. Right? Then there's another form. So this would be what is called the present participle. Then there's another form. You might say you might say hunting is my favorite hobby. What is hunting here? Exactly. Great job. Most high great. That's exactly what it is. It's a noun. You've used the verb form, right? The ing verb present participle form and turned it into a noun, right? A thing. Let's read. And what this is called, we've discussed it before. This is called in English grammar, it's called a gerund. Okay? Gerund. Gerund is any of various non-finite verb forms in various languages, most often, but not exclusively, one that functions as a noun, right? Functions as a noun. Now there's more. It's still verb-like. When you say it, you're still kind of describing a verb. Here's some examples. This English grammar uses gerunds to mean an ing form used in non-finite clauses such as playing on computers. This is not normal use for a Latin gerund, so on and so forth, right? Playing on computers is fun. Ing clause as subject. I like playing on computers. Ing clause as object. That's a verb. Computing is fun. Versus I like computing. That's an action. But computing is fun. You've turned it into a thing, right? Hunting, because the verb in this sentence, or the what you would call the uh, predicate is. Hunting here is a noun. Hunting is my favorite hobby. What we're talking about right here is more closely related to the present participle. It is not the gerund. Okay, we're not turning it into a noun. We're turning it in. We're using it as a verb, right? So Barak is blessed, and that becomes Barawak. Blessing. But not blessing as a noun. Not I received a blessing. More so as in, the Lord is always blessing me, right? As an action. It's an action being done. Okay. Another one we can use. What's one we know? A common one we know we use when we talk about all the time. We talk about shamar. which means to watch. Becoming what? Shawamar. Watching. Watching. Again, not like, again, not like a noun, not like a gerund, but as a present participle. I am watching. I was watching. Right? And we can get more of these. We understand the whole hunting example, though, right? Okay. Then we have this word. Right, which means come or arrive, right? And then we have this word. Bawa'a. Let's see if we can find one in the scriptures. Salakia. One second. You also got Taza'a, which means to leave. Which turns into Tazawa'a, which of course is leaving. There was one more. I definitely got a scripture for it. Salakia. I mean, there's not just one more. There's more than that, but have one with a scripture. And this would be a good time to add another point to this. I'll erase this. No, actually, I'll erase this. You got the Tetragrammaton and everything. Now, get some more of these. Now here's one, right? And just this is just a sidebar to kind of something about the language. How would we pronounce this word? Rapa'ah, right? Which means to heal. But when, as we advance in the Hebrew, we're speaking it, we want to make sure to pronounce things in a fluid fashion to not cause any confusion. Because what does ah mean by itself? And actually, it's funny because we can use ah with all of these, right? Remember, we talked about the pronouns Anya. We have, of course, General Anya Shawamar, but that's formal because he is a general. And you know what I'm saying? Of course, his brother is, a pillar in the school, like, you know what I'm saying? Like before all of us, most of us, right? There's only like 4 brothers that outrank him, quote unquote, like, you know what I mean? Like above him. 5, Salakia. I can't remember, like at the current moment, I can't remember the rank order, but he's one of the 7 generals, right? So it's formal, Anya. But you can say ah. You can absolutely say ah to say I, right? As a prefix, which is why the name, where's it at? Aparium. Aparium means what? I am fruitful. You know that? Okay. We've gone over this before, but no sweat. There's nothing wrong with rehashing it. Trust, don't let me forget. We're coming back to this Rapa'ah, right? That's because this is related to this. I want to prove a point with this. But let's just go show that real quick. So Ephraim in ancient Hebrew is Aparium. Ephraim, and here you see H669 Aparium. Aparium. All right. Comes from the root is para. Right? But aparia means I am fruitful. Bear with me. One second. I had it in my notes, but it's I can't find it. There's no sweat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. Let me check the scripture. Genesis 28:15. It might be here. We want to get in the habit of using this one more. 15. Behold. 50. And here we go. I will. If you go to Genesis chapter 28 and verse 15, you will see, as you scroll down, there's a part where it says, I will not leave thee. Right? And how it says that, it says, the word for leave here is Isab. It's a different word, right? It's Isab. Right? To loosen, or really to forsake. More saying, I will not forsake thee. I won't let you go. Izab, but it says Izab. Izab. Right? The here is the I. Right? So you can say Barawak, Shawamar, Baba, Taza. You know what I'm saying? I am leaving, or I will leave, and so on. But because of that, we have to be careful with just saying Rapa'a, because that by itself could be I. So we want to make sure that this flows. We don't want to say Rapa'a, Pa'a. It should be more Rapa'a, Rapa'a. No, not Rapa'a, Rapa'a. It should be like a small little dip, like again, an inflection. This is one word, Rapa'a, Rapa'a, not Rapa'a, because that could be confusing, because that might then, somebody might think that's attached to the next word or a word in its own. So when we say these words, they should flow. One of the great lessons that I've learned, even recently, the water to Officer Hazahab, is about these things flowing together. The language is supposed to flow, right? The language should flow, not rapa'a, rapa'a, rapa'a. Okay? So that way, when you say, if I got to say after this, rapa'a, da da da. You understand? So it won't sound like that's part of this, or vice versa. All right? But this could easily become rapa'a, it's like, you know, rapawa'a. Rapawa'a. See, I almost did it myself. Rapawa'a. No. Rapawa'a. Rapawa'a. Mm-hmm. Healing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here's another one. This word right here, gone, means to protect. And it becomes what? Go on, which means protecting. Again, present participle. Just a second. Mm, let's see. No sweat. All right, so here's what we're gonna do with the last 10 minutes. I'm gonna leave this and we're just gonna do a couple of letters, right? And I'm gonna show you where these letters come from. We'll just do how much space we got. Let's see. One, two, three, four. Yeah, I think we got space to do. Let's say we'll do 5. Right. Let's go with that. Let's do that. We've been dealing only with the ancient, so we'll stick with that for now. So let's go with ba, ga, da. Let me move that over a little bit. Da. Ha. Just a second. All right. So what I just want to talk about for this a little bit, we don't got much time, but just want to spend just a second talking about this, is these what they're called pictographs. Each of these represent an actual physical thing, right? And so we're going to describe them. So this is of course, the ah. This is the ba. This is the ga. This is the da. This is the ha. All right. Now the ah, the word that this is the representative of this is alap. It is from this word that we get the word alawap, which means general, right? This symbol is supposed to represent a cow. A cow. The word alap means cow. Or ox. Supposed to see it's the head of an ox and horns of an ox. Okay, so a cow or oxen would also, might be more appropriate. Now the ba is meant to represent, this is the word is bayath. Which we also know means what? House, right? But really it represents a tent, right? The Hebrews dwelling in tents was something we did quite often, right? And this is supposed to represent a tent. This top part is the tent, and this is to represent a hook, how it hooks into the ground to prevent it from moving, right? This is the tent. This is the hook that goes into the ground to keep it from swaying. Okay. Now the ga, the word is, now this is an interesting one. Again, the father of all languages is gamal. Gamal. Right? Does anybody know what the ga represents letter-wise? What letter comes from the ga? It's not what you think. You might think it's the what in English? Daughter? Salaki Bob, you said daughter for which one, sir? Which one? None of them represent daughter. Oh, you talking about? I know you talking about Bayath. No, that's Banath. Slocky, brother. You talking about Bayath? Yeah, that's Banath or Bath for daughter. Right? No, Bayath we also use for house. Right? But it means tent. Right? But even though the Ga has the G sound, that's not the English letter that comes from it. A, B, C. There you go, Most High in Christ. This is a camel's hump. Okay? Now the da, the word is dalath. What does that represent? What does that represent? You see if anybody online has it. I'll give you a hint. It's related to a tent to a degree. Got something? It's door. This represents a door. More so the opening in a tent. Right? If you have a tent, the opening or pathway would look like that. You understand? Last but not least for today, we have the ha. Get it? Shalakia. The word is hada. Hada. You know what that is? Anybody? Check online. No sweat. Let's look it up. Let's see if we can let's see if we can look it up. See if we can find it. Here we go. This is the root word H1911, 1911, right? And it says a primitive root, compare H3034, right? Which is yada, right? Which comes from yad, which means hand. That's what you're going to see, which this is supposed to mean to stretch forth the hand, to put. Hada means put. This symbol is to represent a hand stretched out, placing something, right? So each one of these symbols is related to an actual thing. We're going to do next week. We'll do the whole alphabet. Come on, right? And you learn some new words, right? Alap, cow, ba, bayath, tent, ga, gamal, camel, da, dalath, door, ha, hada, which means to put, stretch forth the hand. So again, this symbol is supposed to represent a hand. This is supposed to represent a doorway. This is supposed to represent the hump of a camel. This is supposed to represent a tent on land with hooks underneath to make sure that it doesn't move. And this is to represent the horns and head of an ox or a cow. All right. Very interesting stuff. We're going to continue with this, build upon it. Are there any questions in the room? No sweat. Are there any questions online? Right. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna build off of this. Right. Next week we're gonna do all of these. We're gonna try to get to all of them. Break it down. You know what I mean? And what I might even do is show we have a diagram with more intricate drawings or animation, so you can see literally how this is to represent it. You'll see it a little bit better with the drawings I'm going to show. I'll see if I can get them up. That's what I'll do. I'll try to get it up on the screen and on the TV in the room as well, so we can all look at those. All right. But Most High in Christ, you know what I'm saying? With that, we're going to clip it right there. Thank the water for tuning in. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to the page and everything. You know what I mean? And until next week, you know what I'm saying? We say shalom, Yahweh, Shemi, Shah, Barakatah. To the brothers and to the sisters, Yahweh, Shema, Ba, Shemi, Shah. Shalom.